Good afternoon, it's Jeff Christian from CPM Group here in New York. It's Friday, the 21st of May, about 12:45. Gold and silver are both down, but they continue to be in the ranges that we thought that they would continue to be in. We do think that those ranges, excuse me, will persist a little bit longer. There is weakness potential over the next 5 months, although there are growing signs of increased interest on the part of investors. You're starting to see the longs rebuild on the COMEX gold contract. They had institutional investors had sharply reduced that, and you're starting to see a rebuild. But you know, the headwinds are higher interest rates, potential for a stronger dollar, and the potential for more optimism about the U.S. and European and Chinese economies. I wanted to talk today about CPM Group's open forum for silver. It's next Tuesday, May 25th. It's at 4 o'clock. There is a registration that's available online, and there's a direct link to registering for the event in the description below on the cover email that you'll receive with this link. We have said it's 4 to 6. We think we'll limit it to 2 hours if it goes to 2 hours. In the past, we've done these things live and they've gone 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. We won't do that online, but it is there. It's not a debate, but a chance to ask tough questions of CPM Group and me personally. We have specifically asked the fellow who calls himself the Happy Hawaiian, who is an active investor and a Reddit personality, is how he describes himself, I believe. And he has been involved in some of the discussions on what we call the dark side of the silver market online discussions. You know, some of the things that are just patently wrong and misunderstood and poorly described, and in some cases consciously and purposefully misdescribed. So he's been involved with some of those guys. He's sort of on that side, and we want him there because this is the opportunity for people to ask these tough questions. And what we really want are tough questions from the registrants. This is your chance to ask those questions. And we have the Happy Hawaiian and Corey Fleck here too, as questioners, and also to screen the questions and ask the questions, amalgamate them, because I'm sure there'll be several questions. For example, I don't know how many people will ask us various permutations of questions related to concentration on the COMEX silver contract and Basel III and JP Morgan's penalties and settlement with the SEC and the CFTC over its malfeasance. So they will be collecting the questions and they will be asking those questions, and then they're also there to ask their own questions. And quite frankly, we've had discussions with Happy and he has asked a lot of really good questions, and I think we've given him a lot of information that he didn't have and didn't quite understand about the mechanics of the silver market and the commodity markets in general. So we have them as the questioners and the screeners of the questions from you guys. And we're really looking forward to the questions. And we've done this, as I said, for years, live in person, and hopefully it'll work online too. But it's not a debate. It's going to be a time to ask us questions and hear our answers. What else should I be telling you about it? I am not seeing the questions ahead of time. There are 2 ways to email your questions. The questions, you can ask questions during the forum next Tuesday, and you can also send in questions ahead of time. And Happy has been collecting questions on his social media already, so he has a whole bunch. We're not seeing those questions, and he's not telling us what those questions are ahead of time. I will see them. If you send your questions to info@CPM Group, I will see them because we'll be collecting those questions. And before the forum, we will forward those questions to Corey Fleck and Happy to go through, wade through, decide which ones they want to pass forward. If you send in a question, let us know if you want to be identified or not identified as the person sending in that question. I think there's a proclivity to identify the people, but if you don't want to be identified, say you don't want to be identified, here's an anonymous question. We have told them there's really no topics that are legitimate to the silver market that are off limit. We want to take the high road, not the low road. We want to talk about the silver market and how it goes, and we want to give people a chance to say, I don't understand why this is the way it is. So that's the plan. Next Tuesday, 4 o'clock, we'll cut it off at 6 if we're still going. I suspect we'll still be going. A little preparatory reading if you want. CPMgroup.com, our website, has our market view section. It's free reads. Some of the things that you'll find are Silver Summit presentation I gave in late 2011, Silver, Gold, and Economic Myths. It talks about the concentration of commodity futures positions, not only in silver, but across commodities. Also has some information about the hunts and all sorts of other things, talks about short positions on the COMEX and explains what those short positions are. It has economic myths, so there's a little bit of discussion about the Constitution. There's also a little bit of discussion about what I have called here Reagan's bogus gold standard plank. You can read about it and then you'll understand why we call it bogus, because it was. They were going to back Treasury Reserve notes, Treasury notes with gold, but not Federal Reserve notes. And of course, the US Treasury hasn't really issued notes since 1971. All of the currency that's been issued since then have been Federal Reserve notes. And the idea was, oh, we'll tell people that Treasury notes will be backed by gold, 40% cover the way it was in the Bretton Woods system. And that will give people confidence in the dollar, but we can print Federal Reserve notes till the cows come home. Their words, not mine. So we talk about that. We also go through the April and May 2011 silver price rise and fall. Silver went from like $36 at the beginning of April to $50 almost at the end of April, and then it fell very sharply in May. And we dissected it at the time, and we showed that all of the price increase reflected people rolling out of like 370 million ounces of short positions in the May COMEX, rolling them forward to July. That was the only buying evident in April. If you looked, coin sales actually were down, partly because the price had gone from $36 to $49. And some investors are smart, and when the price shoots up $17, $13 in a month, they say, I think I'll wait until it comes back before I buy anymore. So coin sales were off. ETFs investors actually were liquidating some of their positions, taking advantage of the higher prices. So the demand that you saw in April when the price was rising was almost exclusively people buying back their May contracts and rolling into July. And we said in April, that's what's going on. Take a look at the data for SLV, take a look for the data for US Silver Eagles, take a look at the data on the COMEX. And when the May roll is over, which will be the early May, the price of silver is probably going to fall back to $36. We were wrong, it fell to $32. Of course, a lot of people on the internet said that we were part of a conspiracy. We knew the price was going to be hammered down. No, we're part of the market, and we know how the market works, and we've seen this happen for 40 years. We understand what's going on with the roll. We understand why the shorts wait sometimes before rolling out of an active month. So we talked about that. There's another document, which was the 2012 Silver Summit thing, called Cognitive Dissonance in Silver and Politics. And again, we go through the short positions, talk about leasing, how leasing works, how banks make money in silver by leasing it, talked about hedging. Check out slide 16, it's kind of interesting. Slide 17 is the Fed website, where you can find a link to the annual audits on the gold that's held for the Treasury by the US Federal Reserve system. And there's a whole lot of other stuff. There's also a section in there called Counter Arguments to Silver Conspiracy Theories. And there's the 2004 letter that the CFTC produced saying we have been investigating allegations of undue concentration and manipulation of the silver market, and here's what we found. And then they did another investigation in 2008, and that report is there. And then there's a 2008 presentation that CPM Group did on silver conspiracy theories, the evidence for them, the evidence against them, and the evidence that they don't exist. And we also posted the 1989 letter that Ted Butler wrote to then Attorney General Richard Thornburgh saying, hey, Drexel Burnham, which I used to work for, is jerking around the silver market. And if the CFTC is lenient with me, I'll tell them about it. And we posted that because in 2008, I guess it was, I gave a presentation at the IPMI, which then Kidco re-recorded, which we posted recently, in which I said that conspiracy theories are a giant, expensive distraction. And I think I mentioned something about that. And Ted approached me and said he was going to sue me because he had never accused Drexel of being it. So we immediately posted this letter in which he accuses Drexel of being part of it. And I haven't heard from him since. There's a lot of other stuff. Now, 2011, 2012, 2008, why haven't we updated it? We haven't updated these things because A, the data and the market structure really hasn't changed. And B, none of this stuff that I'm talking about is really central to the silver market. It's a giant distraction. And we explain that in those presentations. And hopefully people say, hey, Jeff, why do you think that's a giant distraction? And we're going to have a substantive conversation about it. I'll give you a little preview. People in the gold market look at the gold market in gold tinted glasses. And people in the silver market look at the silver market in silver tinted glasses. And if you look at the concentration of commodities among the top 4 traders, and if you look at hedging and you look at the large merchants, which are actually banks, for those people who don't know what a futures commission merchant is. If you look at those stuff and you say, wow, look at this, this is really strange in the silver market or the gold market. But if you take a step back and you take off your tinted glasses and you look at the commodities market, you see other commodities markets are like that. So when you look at these concentration of commodities futures charts, and I think there are 4 of them, what you see is that silver is right in the mix. There are half as many commodities that have more concentration in the top 4 traders and half as many that have less concentration. It's not unusual or unique to silver, despite what people will tell you. And then if you take off your commodities tinted glasses and you look at the broader financial market, you see the same sort of behavior in currencies and in equities and in debt securities, as well as commodities. These problems, if they are problems, these conditions and mechanisms are pretty much universal across financial markets. There are problems like high frequency trading and algorithmic trading, unduly concentrated, but they are endemic, I believe is the word, across financial markets. Not even across commodities markets, across financial markets. And it's very interesting because, you know, we saw Gary Gensler take over the CFTC in 2009 or so, and he really did a great job in stepping up and providing the resources, the manpower, the computer power, the authority for the CFTC to better surveil commodities markets. And you've seen a lot more actions by the CFTC since that time. Gary left the CFTC. He's now head of the SEC, and he's talking about the same issues that he was talking about at the CFTC, more or less, about commodities. He's talking about the same issues at the SEC now, because these issues are endemic across financial markets. Anyway, it's a whole lot of reading and free reads at cpmgroup.com. There's also a library of our videos. You can buy our Silver Yearbook, 220 pages or so of good data, statistics, research and analysis. our gold yearbook for gold. The platinum report will come out in July. We're having the open forum on silver next Tuesday, and we hope you're there. And we will be starting our Challenge Your Assumptions open forums starting in June. The first one will be free and open to the public. After that, they go behind a paywall, and CPM Group's clients, including our retail investor clients, will have access to the Challenge Your Assumption forums, which I think we're going to try to do on a quarterly basis. So have a good weekend. It's going to be nice and hot here in New York City, and I'm one of those people who likes the hot town in the summertime. So I'm looking forward to the weekend. The cable company has restored my television service, so if it gets too hot, I can actually watch TV. But you should take care, relax, enjoy yourself. Think of some good questions and topics. Think about what you really want to talk about and what you really have questions about in the silver market, and ask them on Tuesday. Thank you. Have a good weekend.